Oh yeah, so these are the aviation explorers and record setters. I just went through all their names, so yeah, we'll get started. All right, Charles Lindbergh. Charles Lindbergh was responsible for the first two solo of the Atlantic Ocean, breaking a record of more than 2,000 miles on May 20th. So this is pretty amazing, to be honest. First guy to do that. They'd only had boats going back and forth forever, and this is the first guy to actually fly all the way across. And I just thought that was pretty amazing as the first guy to actually have the actual record, and then flying that far of a distance is pretty cool. Lindbergh did not start his endeavor blindly. He started off in aviation after he quit college and took his flight lesson the very next day. So, as with anybody, kind of in my case, I guess a little bit too, you go, I don't really necessarily want to do this. I want to do something else. And then you pick up flying, and that's kind of where you start off. So, that's what he did. He got his first job as a flight instructor, as we all do, and then moved on later to become an air mail carrier. So that was kind of his job. He had a few mishaps where he actually had the plane, it had like engine failure, and he got the mail. It was twice that it happened to him, and he got the mail there on time with minimum delay both times, and he survived, which is pretty cool. Um, when Lindbergh set out to do his flight over the Atlantic Ocean, the runway was muddy and it made it dangerous to take off because of the weight of his 5,000 pound airplane, which held an estimated 450 gallons of fuel. But he went anyway and barely cleared the power lines at the end of the runway. So essentially, he's taking off on like really bad conditions. He's got a muddy runway. It's never good. A dirt runway is not even good, and then let alone it's a muddy runway. And then he has all of this fuel on board, 450 gallons. So he's essentially just driving or flying a giant bomb, and then he almost strikes these power lines. It's just crazy. It's so funny how like dangerous and how just like how many reckless they kind of were back then. Um, but over the course of his 33 and a half hour journey, Lindenberg only used dead reckoning. So dead reckoning is you're kind of pretty much flying by sight and then by like minimal instruments. So like he's using his compass so he can kind of stay on course, but that's literally like the only thing he's using. He's not using like specific like VOR or any GPS. They didn't have any of that back then, so he's just kind of doing it all by hand, by feel, which is pretty crazy. Um, yeah, because he thought the radios were too heavy and unreliable, so he didn't even have radios, which is just crazy. Yeah, he opted out from using them. It's amazing that he made it to his destination at all because the wind could have easily pushed him off his course and he would be going the wrong direction. It is said that he blindly flew fog at heights of 10,000 feet to avoid the clouds, or as low as 10 feet to avoid said fog. So he's literally flying 10 feet off the ocean so he can get below that fog. And then he's flying 10,000 feet. So he's got this whole entire range that he's going over. There's nobody out there. There's nobody he's going to run into, but it's like, wow, that's crazy. Just what he was doing and how much like courage that actually took. When he arrived to Le Bourget, I don't know how to say that. That's probably wrong, but that's in France. There was an estimated crowd of 150,000 people to greet him. So think about how many people that is. That's like a whole entire football game, like a public football game today. That many people sitting there for one guy that just did this amazing thing. I just think that's pretty cool. And here's a map. You can kind of see his route here from the United States, or kind of actually it's Canada, from right here, and he flew all the way across, just straight across, right over to France. I thought this map was kind of cool too.